Hi, I'm Sebastian Spear, and I'm the Student Services Specialist in the Graduate College at Iowa State. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about things that you should be keeping in mind in your first couple semesters to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success down the road and eventually completing the degree that you came here to Iowa State to complete. The first thing I want to talk to you about is your major professor. Some people are going to have applied to Iowa State knowing they wanted to study with this specific major professor. You have already developed that relationship and you know who you're studying with for the next few years. That's a great place to be in. It's great to have already established that relationship and know what your expectations are with that person going forward. Some of you are going to be in programs where you're going to complete what are called rotations. Rotations mean that you're just going to be working in someone's lab for a set number of amount of time, maybe a month, maybe a few weeks, on a rotating basis, so you can get the feel for a bunch of different labs in your program. So then you can decide who you want to work with, and they can get kind of a feel for who you are, and you can come to an agreement with the major professor so you can continue your work here at Iowa State. The third scenario is you might be in a program where you're just going to start taking some classes. There may be some required coursework that pretty much every first year student takes. They interact with faculty in different ways, and then after a little while, you kind of start to develop a relationship and move towards working with a specific faculty member. Especially if you're in this third case, it's very important that you find opportunities to interact with faculty, not just that you're taking classes with, but other ones in your program. That way, you can make sure that you're making the right decision, because the major professor decision is going to be a really important part of not just your experience at Iowa State, but possibly your entire career. Most people who finish graduate school are going to be helped by that major professor to find their first job or their postdoc or move from a master's degree to a PhD. I know that I graduated graduate school about 6 years ago, and I still interact with my major professor on a pretty regular basis. So that relationship is going to last possibly your entire career. So it's a really important aspect, and you should really make sure you give some time to making sure you're making the correct decision and that you're building a good relationship starting right at the beginning. The second thing I want to talk to you about is your program study and committee form. So once you've identified your major professor, you're going to have two more if you're a master's student, or at least four more if you're a PhD student, people on your committee. These are people who are going to be working with you, doing some supporting of your research, maybe not necessarily as much as your major professor, but they'll be there at your exams. They'll sign off on your degree, just like your major professor. So these people are important as well. And it's important that you start to make relationships, not just with the faculty member that is your major professor, but some other faculty in your department as well. The third thing that I kind of want to talk to you about with your program study committee form is you've got your major professor, now you've got some of the people on your committee. Most of you came from an undergraduate program where all of the coursework was pretty prescribed. You're taking 2 English classes, you're required to take calculus, or you're not required to take calculus. You have to take a science in a lab, or the science in lab you're taking is biology 1. You get done with your intro coursework, and then you've got to take advanced communications and all these other things. As a graduate student, it's very different. You may have some courses that are required of you by your program or department. It may be that you have to do a responsible research class. You may need X number of research credits as part of your POSC, but most of the coursework is going to be designed in a way that helps support you to learn the things you need to know so that you can complete your research project and your dissertation and your thesis at the end of your program. So you're going to be spending some time not just checking off all the boxes, kind of like you did in undergrad, but you're going to be developing a program that gets you to where you want to be research-wise at the end of your program. I'm going to share my screen for just a second to show you kind of what that POSC form is going to look like. I'm not going to go into gory detail about filling it out, but I just kind of want to make sure you know where to find it and how to get going on it. So when you log into Access Plus, which I hope all of you have at this point, you're going to have a few tabs up here, probably not as many as me, but if you click on Student, you're going to have a whole bunch of tabs over here. What you're looking for is Grad Student Status or Graduate Student Status. If you click there, it'll show you the status of a lot of different things. I'm an inactive graduate student because I haven't been a graduate student here in a couple of years. I never had a POSC because I was only a non-degree seeking student, but this is a good check that you can do every once in a while to figure out, where am I at? Is there anything that I'm forgetting about? Orange is bad, green is good. And this is it, like I said, a nice little snapshot of where you're at. But if you click on the My POSC form, this is where you can start filling out information. This form can be completed as often as you like. It's generally completed rather early in a program. It must be completed 3 months before your preliminary exam or the end of the semester before your final exam if you're a master's student. because you don't take a preliminary exam. But sometimes students like to come in here, and even if they're not going to submit it right away, they like to save some information. Let's say you know who your major professor is, so you want to get their name in here, and you also know that there's some coursework that you're transferring in, so you wanted to make sure you think about that. So you're going to add some of that in, and then your courses for your first semester, you can kind of click and add them here. So you can just click save now. It's not going to go to anybody for approval, but you can kind of keep track of your program as you go. It's generally good to complete this early because then you kind of have a roadmap. Okay, these are the courses I'm planning to take. And sometimes there's some coursework in your program that is only offered every other fall. So let's say you didn't get it this fall and it's not going to be next fall. So you want to make sure you get that 2 years from now. So you want to build that into your program as you're building. So there are some things that can be really positive about getting your POC form done early. So make sure you're really thinking about that and getting the major professor, the coursework, and your committee put together early enough that you are setting yourself up for success. The last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is some resources to find some help if you are in need of some help. Graduate school is hard. It can be very stressful. Graduate students are under a lot of stress to do research for themselves, but also a lot of times they're working for a major professor. And sometimes you just need someone to talk to, someone to answer some questions, someone to help you sort through some of the bureaucratic things that honestly we make you go through as a graduate student. So I want to make sure that you know where to find that help, not just here is a name, but here is where you can go to on a website to find some different people. So again, I'm going to share my screen, but I'm going to go to a slightly different place this time. There's that POC real quick. But if you go to our website, www.grad-college.iastate.edu, this is a good landing spot for just some general information about being a graduate student. This is where the handbook is. This is where a lot of forms are. But what I want to talk about today is under the faculty and staff one, actually, there's this thing called the Doge list. Every program has what they call a director of graduate education, or a Doge. So that person will be listed here. They're pretty much the person that's in charge of your program. So until you have a major professor, this person mostly acts as your major professor, but they're also there that they can answer some questions for you, and they kind of have some final say. So if you're meeting some strife with other students or faculty, they're a good person to reach out to. In addition to having a Doge, each program has at least one person that's listed as a staff member. So if you can't get hold of the Doge or a faculty, or you have a question that you either are worried a faculty member isn't going to want to answer, or you need a quicker answer, these staff members can be a really good resource to reach out to. So their emails and their phones are there, as well as their physical location. So you should be able to find someone win your program relatively quickly to get that information. If you're looking for somebody that's outside your program, maybe you have something you just kind of want to talk about. Does this seem right? Is it something that most graduate students go through? The Graduate College has a lot of staff that's here to help you. If you actually just click on this contact link up here from our homepage, as I said before, you'll see all of our staff here, some general inquiries, and then we have all of our staff listed and exactly what they can help you with. So I'm right here. I help with non-degree students, but overall I just do a lot with registration, but Lisa helps us out too. But there's a lot of staff on here that can be very helpful in your time here as a graduate student. So there's a lot of other resources, and we're going to put some more of those links in this course, but those are just two places that I wanted to know that you can reach out to make sure that you are having a positive experience here at Iowa State. That's about all I have. I just want you to know that we're really here to help. As I said, we have a Doge program staff and graduate college staff all here who want to help you be successful in your grad program. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I hope you have a really great experience here at Iowa State. Thanks.